For years, society has been sitting in a darkened theater, watching a movie. We've been staring at a script of fabricated narratives and assuming it was reality. But right now, people are looking away from the flickering screens. These broadcasts are highly engineered. Mainstream networks pump out stories designed to keep the public paralyzed within a left versus right political theater. By forcing a choice between two sides, the gatekeepers ensure we never look at who is actually running the projector. Breaking out of that cycle creates a profound sense of isolation. Attempting to show family members the underlying organized crime often results in mockery, as those still immersed in the movie view any deviation from the script as a sign of foolishness. This friction is a result of the ego resisting the change. Moving past the influence of institutional gatekeepers is a necessary process to begin looking at the full spectrum of information available over the last 5 years. This shift in public awareness found its historical catalyst in the exposure of Jeffrey Epstein. His case served as the event that made the broader system visible to the general public. Epstein was not an isolated criminal. He was a heavily connected node. He mingled seamlessly with the highest echelons of global power, operating as a deceiver blending in plain sight for decades. Demanding justice for Epstein did more than expose one man. It opened a door. Looking back years into his history revealed connections that suggest a much deeper, older network of systemic abuse. If pulling this single thread reveals a global syndicate, it raises a question about the structural architecture of the system. We have to examine the specific layers that allow such a network to hide behind the media illusion. To map this out, researchers use a structural metaphor, a sprawling, three-tiered network called the snake. At the top sits the head, the apex tier, the ideological and financial core funding and directing the layers beneath it. This financial core is tied to specific geopolitical actors, specifically the wealth centers of Saudi Arabia and Qatar. These nodes provide the capital required to keep the global operation running. To those studying the network, the motivations at this level are not merely financial. They describe a system that originates in ancient spiritual practices, tying the entire global hierarchy to a network of demon worship involving Shaitan, the Islamic deity of evil. Beneath the apex is the middle layer. This sprawling tier of political string pullers and compromised managers executes the syndicate's goals. The mechanism is leverage. These politicians are controlled through blackmail, ensuring loyalty to the top tier regardless of public roles. These compromised actors use their influence to drive an agenda of global destabilization. One prominent method is the implementation of intentionally open borders, allowing for the unmonitored movement of people and resources. Observers point to the logistical scale of this movement, the boats in the UK and full hotels in Western cities, as evidence of a coordinated infiltration strategy. They claim these individuals are being taken out of foreign prisons and systematically placed into the Western world to create chaos from within. This middle layer uses geopolitical instability as a smokescreen. By keeping the public focused on the chaos, these managers can maintain their own lives of luxury while serving the interests of the cabal. Descending to the final layer brings us to the belly of the beast. This is where ground-level operatives and everyday institutions do the dirty work of the syndicate. These enforcers are embedded within the systems we are taught to trust: the legal system, social services, and the legal profession. Big pharmaceutical corporations also function within this enforcer class. Their vast systemic reach allows them to exert pressure on the population through both health policy and corporate influence. Their primary function in this system is absolute silence. By utilizing threats of institutional ruin or harm to families, they ensure that individuals who notice the corruption are too intimidated to challenge the structure. The belly acts as the ultimate enforcement mechanism. It creates an environment where the public remains compliant, unable to look upward at the tiers of the snake controlling the outcome. This shadow world has been dragged into the light. Its exposure has led to a noticeable change in tone from those within the system, who are increasingly forced to address truths they once successfully hid. The primary defense against the syndicate is the individual rejection of political indoctrination. By refusing to participate in left versus right tribalism, people can begin to see the full spectrum of what has taken place. Evidence of this shift is visible in the media's changing tune. The coordinated turn against Donald Trump and the increasingly absurd narratives from mainstream outlets reflect an attempt to stay away from the actual truth. The path forward involves stepping back to observe the system's collapse. By focusing on individual choices and monitoring one's own reactions and energy, the public can move past the influence of the deceivers. This transition aligns with The Cues, a series of intelligence drops promising a future where these architects will no longer be able to walk down the street. The Great Awakening represents the moment the individual reclaims the capacity to choose their own reality. As the global geopolitical illusion is exposed, power moves out of the hands of the cabal and back to the individual.